I've missed that nostalgic feeling of running a dungeon. DPS intentionally pulling, players leaving in the middle of a fight, and of course, everyone's favourite, standing in the fire. I've always been a fan of MMOs that have dungeons as its core gameplay mechanic for gearing up. But being the filthy casual that I am these days, it's hard to find the time to properly invest into a new game or character. So when I heard that I could jump right into the action and get what I would consider to be the best bits of World of Warcraft without actually playing World of Warcraft, I got a little bit excited.
It's it, I'm in.
I've been playing Fellowship during the open playtest, and so far, I have to say I'm loving it. Just in case you didn't know, Fellowship is a new class-based hotkey dungeon crawler developed by Chief Rebel. The core premise of the game involves running dungeons to the point where you can't progress any further. Gearing up by grinding the dungeons you can complete, progressing further again, and then repeating the cycle until you're at the top of the leaderboard. After you've completed the tutorial, you get to pick a role or hero. Currently we have Helena and Meiko, the tanks, Rime and Tariq, the DPS, and Sylvie and Vigour, the healers. You can change your hero at any time, and I'll go into more detail about each hero in just a moment, so don't go anywhere if you want to know more. Once you've chosen your hero, you'll join a quick play adventure. Fellowship offers a choice of adventures and dungeons. An adventure will take 8 to 15 minutes and contains a single boss, whereas a dungeon can take 25 to 35 minutes and has up to 3 bosses. Your first adventure will be randomly selected from the 4 adventures currently available. You'll be partied up with 3 other willing participants and thrown into the dungeon. In order to complete the level, not only do you need to defeat the boss, but you also need to kill enough of the trash to increase your kill score. Once you've cleared enough trash, defeated the boss and looted the chest, you'll spat back out into the social area where you can find and equip your shiny new loot from the stash, as well as look at any upgrades or new skills that you may have unlocked from clearing that tier of dungeon. As I briefly mentioned earlier, Fellowship has a number of different heroes that you can play as. Each hero fills the role of either tank, DPS or healer, and each hero carries out this role in a different way. Let's take a quick look at the heroes we currently have on offer. Starting with the tanks, first up we have Helena. Helena is your traditional sword and board type of tank. She builds combo points through certain abilities, which then enables her to activate other abilities that build toughness. Toughness is displayed as a bar to the right of your character, and the more of it you have, the less damage you take. She's a reliable tank that feels comfortable to use, however her damage is lower than alternatives, and her lack of self-healing skills means she's very reliant on the healer for survival. Meiko is the other choice if you're looking to tank. Her core mechanics revolve around combining abilities to deal damage, activate buffs, self-heal, and survive dangerous attacks. She does however require a much higher level of player skill. Having multiple combinations of abilities means you need to spend some time learning what each combination actually does, and when you should use them. In addition to this, you'll need to manage your stone shield buff to ensure you're reducing damage as much as possible. Now onto the DPS, first up we have Rime. Rime is a fairly traditional ranged spellcaster. Her core mechanics revolve around generating winter orbs and then spending them to cast much stronger single target or AoE spells. Rime does a serious amount of damage, but is also the squishiest of all the currently available heroes. She does have some mobility spells, but also has more stationary cast or channeled spells than others. Tariq is the melee DPS option, and is actually the hero I was most impressed with. Don't get me wrong, he's still the usual swing big hammer, do big damage kind of class, but by activating his ability procs and the feeling of timing your heavy strike just right, really gets the dopamine flowing. The only area where Tariq is really lacking at the moment is his lack of mobility. If you're stood in the wrong place at the wrong time, there's a good chance you're gonna upset the healer. Now, for the healers. First up we have Sylvie. Sylvie is a healer that uses pet management and heal over time mechanics, in addition to providing a good amount of DPS. Assigning a butterfly to an ally will slowly heal them over time. Assigning a blue butterfly to an ally will increase the healing they receive. Things get a little more complicated again when you start using your main healing spell, Fluttercool Restore Life, as this will remove 2 of your butterflies in order to heal your target after a brief moment. Sylvie is also able to apply a good amount of damage through Prickly Vines. This ability places vines on the floor which will automatically attack a target, and when they expire they leave behind a boom shroom. Stacking these boom shrooms and then hitting a group of enemies with Shroom Explosion can put you at the top of the DPS meters almost immediately.
I'm gonna throw some mushrooms. Okay.
Sylvie is definitely a jack of all trades. She isn't the best healer or a great DPS, but she's certainly capable of filling both roles simultaneously. Finally, we have Vigour. Vigour is more of a traditional style of healer. equipped with consistent and strong healing spells. His core mechanic revolves around building runes in order to activate his stronger healing or damaging abilities. Whilst I really like the character concept of Vigour, I found his healing to be less enjoyable than Sylvie, but he certainly felt more reliable when things got a bit messy. So let's talk a bit about the dungeons themselves, seeing as that's what the game is actually all about. I've predominantly healed my way through the majority of dungeons so far as Sylvie, so I'm speaking mostly from the point of view of a healer. There are 4 adventures and 3 dungeons currently available in the playtest, and each of them have their own unique boss or bosses with some pretty awesome mechanics, some of which I've seen before in games like WoW or Final Fantasy XIV, and some are totally new, and even took us a little while to learn.
No, we can't change.
That Lewis.
The difficulty of each dungeon does seem to vary, with some being harder than others, but this is likely going to change as new and different modifiers come into effect later in the game. It's still very early days for Fellowship, and I haven't really seen anything that I don't like yet, apart from the fact that weapons are not considered gear. Coming from WoW, I've always thought weapons were the most exciting drop, so I would love for this to change. The game's currently plagued by lag spikes, crashes, and weird UI bugs, but these can be excused as this is currently a playtest, and I don't doubt they'll be sorted before launch or early access. The matchmaking does take a long time to find a party, but this could also be down to server issues, so no real concerns here just yet. I'm also intrigued to see what the endgame becomes after it's launched. Are we going to be aimlessly grinding the same dungeons with minimal changes to mechanics at tier 100+, or will something new be introduced for the real hardcore players? Overall, I have really high hopes for Fellowship. MMORPGs have proven time and time again that the player base love running dungeons, so it's about time that we had a game that fully invests itself into evolving it. I'm looking forward to seeing more heroes, more dungeons, the possibility of raids, cosmetics, spells, and whatever else Chief Rebel have up their sleeves. Did you take part in the playtest? What did you think? Do you think that having purely dungeon-based gameplay could spell the end for MMORPGs? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.